You mentioned that liberal democracy comes from trying to kill the king. What is the killing the king ritual, and what are some of the ways in which you think it's important?
Well, essentially, the killing of the king ritual is a type of consecration. Really, in theological terms, it's a transition between the 32nd and 33rd degrees of Freemasonry. It's almost a liturgy. It's and Freud talked about this. Sir James George Fraser in The Golden Bough talked about this. I've read about it in J.S. Downer, Michael Hoffman, working on the Kennedy assassination, and how the killing of the king is absolutely significant to all of these revolutionary ideas. The killing of the king ritual is the means whereby elites working under the crown, when they sense any weakness in the father figure, weaken him further and eventually kill him, taking over, trying to take some of that authority that he has to themselves and rule the country as some kind of a oligarchic triumvirate. It's a destruction of the ruling figure. It's destruction of unity. It's a destruction of logos. Christ himself. The Pharisees demanded the Romans kill Christ because murdering him, they would continue in their power, their authority, and their wealth. All forms of this ritual partake in the initial murder of the killing of God. You take the king's power and, divide that up amongst those who've risen up in rebellion. And this is central to Freud's idea that either you have the monarchy as a symbol of unity or oligarchy, this controlled chaos, the psychological use of chaos for the sake of those gaining power, because chaos increases the suggestive nature of those who live under it. Chaos, revolution, warfare, these are central to any revolution taking place. Any war, economic upheaval, people become more suggestive, looking for someone, any group or institution to save them, and they're going to sacrifice quite a bit in order to be saved. Killing of the king ritual is, in Freud's point of view, in Fraser's point of view, is where the sons, jealous of the father's power, as he begins to weaken, kill him, and seek to get that same kind of authority for themselves. This is what a republic is, because all republics develop with the murder of the king, whether it be the Glorious Revolution in Britain, the Russian Revolution, or the French Revolution, and dozens of others. The first thing they do is murder the monarch and put themselves in his place. But they never really can have it. They don't have the mystique of a monarch. They don't have the loyalty that a monarch has. So generally what they have to do is hide behind something. So in Florence, they had to hide behind the old republic, the old constitution, even though they ran everything from behind the scenes. The Russians, of course, hid behind the working class. The British hid behind the will of the people, which was, Parliament's slogan. I think the first time that was ever uttered. Revolutionary ideology somehow is supposed to take the place of the crown, and they try to promote their own heroes and martyrs, things like the Lady Liberty and these kind of things that are trying to not only replace the role of the king, but the role of religion as well. And those two are very close. But the killing of the king is designed to destroy unity and create chaos. From chaos comes suggestibility, and from suggestibility comes the ability of these people to remake society however they see fit. And it's the idea, it's a Judaic notion in the Kabbalah of the Ein Sof, this formless matter that can be created into anything. It's the summoning of suggestibility. It creates confusion. The Ein Sof is this, Kabbalistic idea of God, quote unquote. It is the essence of revolutionary ideology, even the modern scientific mentality, whether it be the state of nature, the evolutionary primordial soup, even stem cells, where the stem cell, prior to it being a specialized thing, is like the Ein Sof. It can be made into anything. Perfect competition in Adam Smith. These are all versions of the killing of the king, where reason, unity, masculinity is destroyed so that others can then take over by creating chaos, creating that kind of suggestibility. This is where all revolutionary movements come from. and they have to weaken the king. They have to make fun of him. They have to create stories like the Bolsheviks did with Rasputin. Anything they can to humiliate. They make up stories. They do whatever they have to do to make a mockery out of the monarch. And once that mystique is broken, the rest kind of happens by itself. And that's why the satire, destroying people, destroying anyone from Donald Trump to Nicholas II, that kind of satire is necessary to then remove the loyalty of the general population to the leader. And creating that chaos is essential. And this is what we're talking about here. This is where revolution comes from. This is what the killing of the king ritual is meant to summon. It never quite works out because it is so extremely unstable. And even in America, the president is treated very much like a monarch. He is a mystic figure. He's responsible for people's well-being. He's responsible for the state of the economy. He's responsible for the state of the world. He is so mystified beyond belief. So we used to be a very limited, really uninteresting role in the Constitution, the colonial era. And so people have this desire to personalize power, to personalize their state of life. Some leader is supposed to be able to take care of them. And this happens all the time. The American presidency is a curious example. So that's, destroying that is a way for an oligarchy to take power. It's never stable. It's revolutionary by its definition. And usually some Napoleon figure comes around and fixes it to some extent. But the old society is gone, at least in the short term.
Yeah, that's a fascinating answer. And it reminds me of a book on Shakespeare's plays by a scholar called Maynard Mack titled Killing the King. And he claims that the structure of Shakespeare's tragedies is based on what you've just outlined. So we have what he calls an older, idealized order of kingship, embodied in the case of Macbeth, for example, by Duncan, that is attacked and destroyed by the villain hero. And then the bit that really reminded me most in what you were saying of Maynard Mack's outline of Shakespearean tragedy is that the dream of order on which that vision of kingship is based refuses to die. Instead, what takes its place is what he calls a world of mask and manipulation. And I liked what you were saying there about the position of president in the US being in some ways an echo of the monarch, because there is inbuilt in human beings this desire to look to the authority figure, just like a child without a father has lost something fundamental. It seems that in terms of political structure, the want of a monarch is always felt.